Christians are pillaged and razed, for Saracens made it a goal to subdue. The cross of Christ most glorious and true. And behold, there was found a man, a Godfrey Bullion, who would retake the land, where Christ the Lord was bound by his hands, and a traitor would hang himself over the sands. For now a good Christian for this you were born, take heart full of courage and brave every storm, so to safeguard the land where the God-man did dwell, who by death on the cross broke the kingdom of passed over the land, through tempests and flashes, through canyons so grand, such numerous dangers of battles to death, for heavens came heeding the vigorous request. As thunder the drums of the armies resound, as banners of nobles fly high from the ground, the rumble of horsemen in numerous file, the glint of their armor be seen for a mile. For now, good Christian, for this you were born, take heart full of courage and brave every storm, so to safeguard the land where the God-man did dwell, who by death on the cross broke the kingdom of hell. Thus castle by castle be conquered in time, till lastly was seen, O Jerusalem shine. At last then Duke Godfrey gave order to siege, the greatest of hardships to accomplish indeed. The first in the charge, sending foes to the judge, a lion-like warrior swinging mace with a thud, till victory claimed, a great treasure attained, a land where Christ Jesus was born and was slain. For now a good Christian for this you were born, take heart full of courage and brave every storm, so to safeguard the land where the God-man did dwell, who by death on the cross broke the kingdom of hell. For now a good Christian for this you were born, take heart full of courage and brave every storm, so to safeguard the land where the God There once was a band that took to the road. The name of the band was Charlemagne's sword. Her epic tale is penned into chord. To campaigning we shall go. Whoa! May well the weather may change and bring a storm, wind, hurricane strange. High, low, the years may age. To campaigning we shall go. To the north, to the south, to the east, to the west, the Charlemagne sword did adventure best. Young caravanners will write the rest. To campaigning we shall go. Huh! Soon the revolution will fall, the serpent's head crushed, its tail head on. Sound the angel's trumpet call, to campaigning we shall go. The band was as a band of brothers that confronted liberals and made them shudder. Face to face we made them stutter, to campaigning we shall go. Drag queens, BLM and socialists, abortionists, trans and Satanists, Pachamama and progressivists, to campaigning we shall go. Whoa! Soon the revolution will fall, the serpent's head crushed with tail and all. Sound the angel's trumpet call, to campaigning we shall go. The entity's curse from God is coming, to campaigning we shall go. The church of the one true God shall prevail. Once the dragon is locked in hell, the glories of Mary's knights will tell, to campaigning we shall go. Soon the revolution will fall, the serpent's head crushed with tail and all. Sound the angel's trumpet call, to campaigning we shall go. Soon the great time will come and end the rule of Satan's scum. Some and all the angels come, to campaigning we shall go. Soon Mary's reign will come and bring back Charlemagne's Christendom. Long live Christ the King, her Son, to campaigning we shall go.
According to a French legend, not far off the coast of Brittany, an ancient city was buried beneath the waters by a mysterious cataclysm. The local fishermen say that when the tide is low on some moonlit nights, the majestic bell tower of a submerged cathedral appears amid the waves. And suddenly, over the crashing of the waves, you can hear the distant but solemn pealing of bells that call to mind the splendor of a glorious and holy past. When the surf is calm, the faint but sublime strains of Gregorian chant or the melodious notes of an organ drift across the sea. The fishermen say that one day the cathedral will return to dry land, even more beautiful, as it is kept unscathed under the waves. Looking at the present crisis, many souls may feel sadness in the depths of their hearts as they see all that is truly Catholic submerged beneath the waters of an unprecedented cataclysm. Nevertheless, although impiety appears to destroy everything holy, the voice of grace still whispers in our hearts. The bells of a submerged cathedral ring within our souls, announcing a promise that a glorious and holy past shall rise anew.
Welcome to your Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired.
We love God, we ought to be able to talk about Him.
Getting you started on your day.
With the latest in breaking news and information.
From the Vatican to the White House and everything in between.
It's serious, it's fun, it's your Catholic Drive Time.
Now here's your host, Joe McClain.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired. I'm your host, Joe McClain. Good morning to you on this Monday, November the 28th, 2022, in the first week of Advent. Praise be to God. Good morning to you. Lots of stories coming out of China over the weekend. Of course, Cardinal Zen was convicted, ordered to pay a fine. Is there anything more? We're going to find out. China has broken the Sino-Vatican deal. They've appointed a bishop to a diocese that the Vatican doesn't even recognize. How will that affect the relationship? And then huge protests over the weekend. Massive, very rare protests were happening in China over the weekend in Shanghai and other parts of China as well. We're going to catch up on all the China stories at 15 past the hour, so do join us if you can. Coming up at 35 past the hour, David Ramos from ACI Prensa is going to be on. Is Mexico returning to the Calles laws? I got to watch For Greater Glory over the weekend as one of my movies that I took in during the Thanksgiving weekend holiday, and such a winner. For Greater Glory. There's only one or two really chintzy, cheesy scenes. Otherwise, fantastic film. Really encourage you to check that out. But we're going to be talking about what's going on in Mexico, banning nativity scenes there. Yeah, yikes. Join us at 35 past the hour. Tito Edwards from BigPulpit.com is going to be on with us at the top of the second hour, which, by the way, today is the only day we're going to have a normal second hour. It's Share-a-thon week across the Guadalupe Radio Network. Be sure to support financially your local Catholic radio station. It does make the biggest difference in the world to us. But we're going to be talking about some of those stories coming out of the Vatican with Cardinal Bätzing. Secret recordings with the Pope, played in court. What's going on there? What does he know? What does he not know? Tito Edwards from BigPulpit.com will catch us up in the top of the second hour. Medium home prices are dropping like a hot rock right now. Down 7% since its peak back in June. But don't worry, the bloating that occurred in 2021 and 2020 is still going on. They're still 35% higher than, say, normal. But housing prices is dropping. The head of the German Bishops' Conference says he will not take no for an answer on female priests. Bishop Georg Bätzing says even if Rome sees the point as settled, which they've seen it as settled since Christ founded the church and established male priesthood, but otherwise he's not going to take no for an answer. And is that considered a schism? I'm wondering. Dr. Michael Banner, speaking of schism, who is the Dean of Trinity College in Cambridge, has claimed that Jesus could have been transgender. Blasphemy much? And anyway, good morning to you, Rudy Carlos. How was your Thanksgiving?
Good morning, Joe. It was fantastic, unlike that previous story, which, by the way, he was making a comparison to this old manuscript. I think it was a little prayer book. And Gross. He says that something in the prayer book made it look inappropriate. And I was just looking at it, and I was thinking, it's the wound of Christ. What's the matter with you? Yeah. You degenerate. Yeah. But anyway, I had a great time. I had turkey, which is all I really ever wanted for Thanksgiving anyway. I had turkey and gravy, and those are the two best things. I think that's just like the best. The best foundation of the plate. Is right it? There. Yeah.
I don't know.
Potatoes, too.
I cheated hardcore on my carnivore diet.
Was it worth it?
I went keto. I didn't go too crazy, but crazy nonetheless. And I think my body's punishing me for my infraction, for my sin.
I'm all out of leftovers, so I'm depressed.
Are you? Yeah. I had pie and I had mashed taters. They were made of cauliflower. But and then what else did I have? Oh, I had Brussels sprouts.
Well, was it worth it?
Tastes so good. It tasted so good. But I had to go to confession for a little bit of indulgence there, nonetheless. Speaking of which, Adrian Fonseca's here on the ones and twos. Good morning to you, Adrian.
What's good about it?
You're here. Praise God.
I'm sick. Pray for me.
Please don't breathe on us.
I'm going to go over and I'm going to lick your keyboard later.
It's over.
When you're not watching.
The vent is right above him.
I know.
It's like splashing it everywhere now.
We're not paying attention.
Being on an airplane, just spreading your germs.
I'm just going to lick all of y'all's keyboards.
That's
my
That's disgusting.
Just
Joke's
be
on
aware.
you. I already licked it.
All right, enough of the shenanigans. We need to pray and jump into our hour. We're going to have a lot to cover today. Do join us if you can, and share us with a friend. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Now your headlines with Rudy Carlos.
Good morning. Thanks for tuning in to Catholic Drive Time. It's good to be back. Today's Wednesday, November 28th, and here are your headlines this morning. The Hill reports Murphy says Senate does not have 60 votes to pass assault weapon ban. Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut, a leading advocate for gun control in the Senate, expressed doubt that an assault weapons ban, once again being pushed by President Biden after the country's latest mass shooting, could pass the upper chamber. Such a proposal would need 10 Republican votes to break the legislative filibuster, assuming Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer can get all 50 Democrats to support the legislation. The Epoch Times reports, step down CCP, step down Xi Jinping. Protests erupt across China over COVID-19 curbs. Protests erupted in Shanghai and on university campuses across the country over the weekend. The latest wave of widespread anger from the capital of Beijing to the southern city of Nanjing occurred over massive protests that broke out in the far west region of Xinjiang, where strict COVID-19 curbs were blamed for 10 deaths and 9 injuries in a high-rise apartment fire in Urumqi, the region's capital city. The apartment building was sealed off due to China's zero COVID policies. Local authorities denied the accusation. The New York Post reports U.S. officials pressured Canada to stop the Freedom Convoy, new testimony reveals. A public inquiry into the Canadian government's decision to use emergency powers to clear the Freedom Convoy protesters revealed that frantic phone calls were placed by Washington to Ottawa in an effort to open up choked-off supply lines. Saying, quote, they are very, very worried, Canadian Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland wrote in an email to her staff after a February 10th phone call from the White House National Economic Council Director Brian Deasy. If this is not sorted out in the next 12 hours, all of their northeastern car plants will shut down, Freeland continued in her email. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg later phoned his Canadian counterpart the same day Deasy called Freeland, according to the report, and pressured him about Canada's plan to resolve the protests. And Breitbart reports French government minister labels Italy an enemy country after anti-immigration policy. France's Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin criticized the Italian government this week, claiming Italy behaved as an enemy country of France after rejecting a migrant taxi that ended up docking in Toulon. Italy, under the government of Prime Minister Meloni, has vowed to stem the surge of illegal immigrants arriving in the country, with Italy's Interior Minister Matteo Piantedosi vowing to halt the activities of migrant transporting NGOs, which have dropped off over 10,000 people in Italy this year. And those were your headline news this morning. God love you.
The saint of the day is Blessed James Benefati, also known as Blessed James of Mantua. He was born in the 13th century in Mantua, Italy. James Benefati, Bishop of Mantua, was a famous man in his time. It is unfortunate that he is so little known in ours. James was born in Mantua in the latter half of the 13th century, and he entered the order at the convent in his native city probably around the year 1290. He was both a learned and holy priest, and these qualities brought him to the attention of his brother Dominican Nicholas Boscasino, the future Pope Benedict XI. As cardinal, Nicholas chose for his companion the young Dominican from Mantua. He employed him in various offices in Rome and recommended to other high-ranking prelates. Consequently, James found himself kept busy in diplomatic offices by several popes, Benedict XI and John XXII among them. The latter named him bishop of his hometown of Mantua, and he went to take over his see in 1320. For 18 years, James occupied the see of Mantua and accomplished great good among the people. He rebuilt and refurnished the cathedral and worked many miracles among his flock. At his death in 1338, many remarkable miracles occurred, and he was called Blessed James by people who were grateful for his favors. Nearly 150 years after his death, when repairs were being made in the church where he was buried, an accident opened his tomb, and people were startled to find that his body was completely incorrupt. Again, in 1604, the same phenomenon was noted. He died in 1338 and beatified by Pope Pius IX elevated him to the dignity of blessed in 1859. Blessed James Benefati, pray for us.
Praise be to God in all things. Thank you, Adrian, for reading the saint of the day today. Hope you feel better. But the gospel today comes to us from Matthew chapter 8, verses 5 through 11. When Jesus entered Capernaum, a centurion approached him and appealed to him, saying, Lord, my servant is lying at home paralyzed, suffering dreadfully. He said to him, I will come and cure him. The centurion said in reply, Lord, I am not worthy to have you enter under my roof. Only say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I too am a man of subject to authority, with soldiers subject to me. And I say to one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes. And to my slave, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed, and said to those following him, Amen, I say to you, in no one in Israel have I found such faith. I say to you, many will come from the east and the west, and will recline with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob at the banquet in the kingdom of heaven. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Pseudo Chrysostom points out, this centurion was the first fruits of the Gentiles, and in comparison of his faith, all the faith of the Jews was unbelief. He neither heard Christ's teaching nor saw the leper when he was cleansed, but from hearing only that he had been healed, he believed more than he heard, and so he mystically typified the Gentiles that should come, and who had neither read the law nor the prophets concerning Christ, nor had seen Christ himself work his miracles, close quote, Pseudo Chrysostom. So they didn't need much, but they believed much. Let that sink in. St. Hilary says, spiritually interpreted, the Gentiles are the sick in this world, and afflicted with the diseases of sin, all their limbs being altogether unnerved and unfit for their duties of standing and walking. The sacrament of their salvation is fulfilled in this centurion's servant, of whom it is sufficiently declared that he was the head of the Gentiles that should believe, close quote, St. Hilary. St. Chrysostom would say, Jesus here does what he never did. He always follows the wish of the supplicant, but here he goes before it, and not only promises to heal him, but to go to his house. This he does, that we may learn the worthiness of the centurion, close quote. Did you see that? This is pretty significant. It's pretty unique. Our Lord is taking this a step further, and that has to have drastic implications, especially to the Jews who would have been present there and witnessing all of this. St. Augustine says, by declaring himself unworthy, he showed himself worthy, not indeed into whose house, but into whose heart Christ, the Word of God, should enter. Nor could he have said this with so much faith and humility, had he not borne in his heart him whom he feared to have in his house. And indeed, it would have been no great blessedness that Jesus should enter within his walls, if he had not already entered into his heart, close quote, St. Augustine. Pray for us. Would we be like the centurion, which is why, before going and presenting ourselves to Holy Communion, receiving our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity, we must pray, Lord, I am unworthy to have you enter under my roof, but only say the word, and my soul shall be healed. Let us be like the centurion. Do we ask God to prove himself to us continually, or do we have faith? Do we believe as this centurion, this Gentile has? Let us believe like him today. Hey, don't go anywhere. On the other side of this break, we're going to have a guest on to talk about China. What is going on in China? Is it the end of CCP and more? All that coming up next.
Atheists claim they don't need God to be a good person, implying God's not relevant to morality. But is this true? Well, atheists can be good in the sense of knowing behaviors that respect the goods of human nature and living accordingly. St. Paul acknowledges this natural moral law in Romans chapter 2. But this doesn't mean God is irrelevant when it comes to morality. And here's the reason. Besides God's grace being necessary to live the moral law perfectly and merit heaven, God is necessary for the law to be morally binding. How can the moral law be binding if there's no moral lawgiver behind it that surpasses human authority? The answer is, it can't. So an atheist can follow the natural moral law, but only the theist is consistent in saying that such a law is morally obligatory.
Praise be to Jesus
I'm
Christ.
Carlo Broussard
Welcome
with
back
the ready
to
reason for Catholic
Drive
Answers.
Time. This is your producer, Adrian Fonseca, and today is...
So many of us carry such heavy burdens.
You're crazy!
Deep within, we struggle.
Come on, babe. It'll be fun.
Because sin separates us from God.
She's having a relationship with George.
But thanks to the grace of confession, God compassionately listens, forgives, and sets us free. So if it's been a while since you've been to confession or Mass, come home and experience a fresh start. Visit CatholicsComeHome.org.
Praise be to Jesus Christ, or shall we say, Viva Cristo Rey. Coming up at 35 past the hour, David Ramos from ACI Prensa is going to join us to talk about Mexico possibly banning nativity scenes there. It's like bringing back the old Calles laws, the anti-clerical laws of the 20s and 30s in Mexico. I mean, what's next? America is going to send planes and guns and bullets down there one more time to attack Catholics in that country? I certainly hope not, but David Ramos is going to give us the story at 35 past the hour, what's going on in Mexico. Join us if you can. But joining us right now is my good friend Jack, who, born and raised in China, has been doing quite a bit to raise awareness of what's going on in China, especially for Chinese Catholics. Good morning to you, Jack.
Good morning.
Jack, thank you for your time today. We appreciate you being on with us. Lots of stories coming out of China over the weekend. Let's start with the protests. And then, of course, we've got Cardinal Zen, illegal dioceses, and so much more to talk about. But in the protests, it's pretty scary to think about how many people have been locked in their apartments to enforce Xi Jinping and CCP's zero COVID policy. What can you tell us?
Oh, yes. So the past 3 years, over the 3 years, it's absolute, a very brutal total lockdown. It's called a zero policy, zero case policy. Imagine among 1.4 billion population. So you want to hear more about the protest?
Yeah,
right now, or it's your next question?
It seems to me that the protests are utterly unique in the sense that we've seen protests in China before, but we've not seen too many people actually shouting down the CCP, actually calling for the resignation of Xi Jinping, actually fighting the police in order to prevent them from arresting people. It seems to me that is unique. Is that the case, or is this pretty standard in China?
You're right. I think the last time we saw widespread uprisings, or more often uprisings, was about 10 years ago. Since Xi Jinping took over, for the past 5 years, especially, it's rare to see this kind of a protest. Now we see that the past 2 days. The trigger was the fire in Xinjiang, in New Territory, the Uyghur people. The fire killed over at least 10 people because they were locked. They were locked in their apartment. So that was a trigger. And then the protests spread over across China, in many cities and in many universities. including my city. And well, actually, it's the size of the protest is not big, right? Maybe hundreds of people in one place, in one spot in a city, one time. But it's in many cities, and people, young people, and shouting on the street, and even shouting down with the CCP, down with the Xi Jinping. And that was maybe the first time since 1989 Tiananmen massacre.
Wow. And I understood that in some of the cases, they were protests that were trying to get to Tiananmen Square because they wanted to make a bigger statement in all of this. And I'm guessing that the authorities have pretty much put a damper on all this. They've come out in great force and dragged some people away. How severe do you think the reaction will be from the CCP in all of this?
You mean the CCP reaction?
Right.
This time, a little surprised that the first minute response was not that brutal. They didn't, use that much force. They still give some minutes for the protesters to speak up, and then the arrest. So people are guessing why. Maybe they need maybe the police need more funding for further crackdown. So they let it happen. Or maybe the CCP, the officials, the local officials, they are still under much. They are not satisfied. They are not happy with the lockdown. So they let it happen for a few minutes, and then they arrest.
Jack, let me ask you a little bit more.
Also,
go ahead.
And I want to add that this time, even for the past 48 hours, they call this the white paper movement, white paper revolution, just like what happened in Russia recently, right? People holding white paper, empty blank paper, to show their dissatisfaction, show their anger.
What is the significance of
the CCP banned the sales of white paper, A4 printed paper. They banned it.
That's good.
Jack, let me ask you this: what's the significance of the white paper?
The significance?
Yeah. So why is it blank? Why?
That means that. Why they use white paper?
Yes, sir.
Because CCP do not allow me to write anything there.
Oh.
Right? I don't put they shout down with CCP, they shout their demands. But this is you don't allow me, then I do put a white paper and blank paper. Okay, I hold it. Just like the Russians do, the Russian dissidents. And the CCP still take away the white paper. Even white paper is banned. It's just so ridiculous and symbolic, as a protest.
So, the last question on the protest here. Do you think this will escalate, or do you think the CCP will basically be able to quell this and just move on? Based on what you've said so far, this seems rather significant, but I've also heard that as of right now, things are quiet on the streets in China. So is this over?
You're right. We just expect that. We hope that it will last at least for 7 days. That's maybe the threshold in the professional term. But I think finally they will take care of it. The CCP will take care of it. They would not allow it. But at least we know that after 5 years, at least 8 years of quietness under Xi, there are still surviving force. There's still hope among people, especially young people.
Well, let's switch over to what's going on with Cardinal Zen, and he has apparently been convicted. What does this mean for him? What is the punishment he is facing?
Very ridiculous. The punishment he received was a very small fine, but his passport still in the hands of the CCP, and still it's possible that CCP will pursue more punishment, more conviction. such as colluding with the foreign power. That would be very severe.
So he is not going to go to jail then?
Right now, no. Just to pay the fine.
And what, if anything, has the Vatican said in response to this news?
No. Right now, nothing. But I can tell you what's breaking is what he said. What Cardinal Zen said.
What did he say?
When he was convicted that day, 25th.
What did he say?
You want to hear that?
Yes, please.
He said, Cardinal Zen said on site that day, the conviction day, he said, listen, he said, I know the rest of the world is watching a cardinal. This has nothing to do with religious freedom. I am a part of the fund. This has not. This is not a damage to Hong Kong religious freedom. Period.
Jimmy Lai is up next, right? He's also going through a trial. Do we think he's going to get the same kind of fine, or do we think Jimmy Lai will end up in prison?
Oh, Jimmy Lai is more severe. Jimmy Lai right now is in jail, and he will receive the formal sentence early next month, December.
So you think he's going to end up in jail?
Yes.
Wow. Then there was this story that
you want to hear. Well,
we're down to a couple of minutes.
You want to hear the common.
I would like you to address, because we only have a few minutes left, I would like you to address the story about China appointing a bishop to a diocese that the Vatican doesn't even recognize. What is the story there?
Oh, the story happened one day before Cardinal Zen's conviction. This happened. Beijing broke the secret deal with the Vatican. How we know this? Because 2 days later, Rome, the Vatican, expressed their surprise and sorrow over Beijing's illegal installation of a legal bishop, of a legitimate bishop. It's an underground bishop, okay, ordained by Pope Francis. Beijing installed this bishop to a illegal diocese.
Wow.
As an auxiliary bishop. So that's very weird. That's what happened.
According to the Catholic News Agency, they say, quote, the Holy See hopes that similar episodes will not be repeated, remains awaiting appropriate communications on the matter from the authorities, and reaffirms its full readiness to continue the respectful dialogue concerning all matters of common interest, close quote. If the Vatican is hoping that the Chinese government, the communist government, is just going to play fair, play by the rules, then this seems rather naive. Why would we expect communists to play according to the rules, and why would we have such a relationship thinking that they're going to do the right thing according to what we believe as Catholics?
I don't know why. There's zero reason for me to say we need to proceed with this, to negotiate with the CCP. There's a saying that communism is not to be negotiated, it is to be destroyed. And now CCP keeps testing the bottom line of the world, bottom line of Rome. I think it may be a good thing. CCP now exposed to their true face, right? And then I hope that Vatican will react with the true stance, with the truth.
Well, we're down to just under a minute now, Jack. We're grateful for your time today. Thank you for giving us some insight into these stories breaking out of China over the weekend. Last thought, do you think the church in China will continue to suffer here, or do you think the Vatican will wake up and begin to speak out boldly?
I don't know. I think Vatican will continue to. It's not easy for them to acknowledge they're wrong. And also want to say the Cardinal Zen's that response, Cardinal Zen's words. It's very weird. It's not. I don't believe it's from his heart.
Let's continue to pray for His Eminence Cardinal Zen and all the Catholics that are in China and are having to deal with this. Many are feeling abandoned in the process. Let's pray for them. Jack, God bless you. God love you. Thank you for your time today. Coming up after the break, David Ramos, ACI Prensa, is going to be on talking about nativities in Mexico. All that and more.
This is Dale Ahlquist with a Chesterton Minute. Have you ever noticed that most people think that rules apply to others but not to themselves? They always consider themselves to be the exception. But what ends up happening is that everybody is an exception, and so the rules don't apply to anybody. The result is something worse than chaos. It's a loss of all the categories of respect and justice. G.K. Chesterton says that when the exception has become the rule, that is the worst of all possible tyrannies. When the cardinal, formerly known as Ratzinger, gave his final homily before the papal conclave, he said, "We are living under the tyranny of relativism." What is relativism? It's when there are no rules, only exceptions. The man about to become Pope was echoing Chesterton exactly. Want more than a minute? Chesterton.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're currently cruising at 39,000 feet. We'll turn that seatbelt sign off for you and let you move about the cabin. Looks like we're about 2 hours and 10 minutes from landing. Plenty of time for you to pray for vocations to the priesthood.
Wouldn't it be great if everyone prayed daily for priestly vocations? Why not start today? A friendly suggestion from Guadalupe Radio Network.
Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired, and now more headlines. CNA reports, that's Catholic News Agency for you, Vatican says China violated terms of agreement with bishop installation. A statement released on November 26 said that the Holy See noted with surprise and regret that Bishop Jean-Peng Weizhao had been installed as auxiliary bishop of Jiangxi, a diocese that's not recognized by the Vatican. Peng's installation ceremony in Nanchang, China did not occur in accordance with the spirit of dialogue and what was stipulated in the provisional agreement on the appointment of bishops on September 22, 2018, it said. The government approved Catholic Association said Peng swore an oath at the installation ceremony to guide Catholicism to adapt to socialist society and contribute to the dream of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. The Blaze reports Coast Guard rescue of cruise passenger who fell overboard for up to 15 hours hailed as a Thanksgiving miracle. Here's a little bit of good news here. Carnival Cruise Line said that the man was at a bar on the cruise ship until around 11 p.m. on Wednesday when he left to use the bathroom. He never returned. His sister assumed he went back to his room, but she later reported him missing the next day. The Coast Guard dispatched an MH-60 Jayhawk helicopter, a 45-foot response boat, and an HC-144 Ocean Sentry airplane to attempt to locate the man. The search extended for more than 200 miles in the Gulf of Mexico. At 8:25 p.m. on Thursday, the Jayhawk air crew spotted the man in the water. Video shows the man waving his arms to draw their attention. The Coast Guard crew were able then to rescue the man, who was responsive. The Coast Guard who rescued him later noted that 15 hours in open waters would be the absolute longest that he's ever heard about anyone surviving in his 17-year career, and that it was a Thanksgiving miracle that the overboard cruise passenger survived. And those were your headline news this morning. God love you.
Praise be to God in all things. Thank you, Rudy, for keeping us up to date. Boy, over the weekend, I watched, I think it was 2 movies over the weekend. I watched some stuff over the weekend.
Just 2?
I watched some episodes of another series, but I turned it off because it just disgusted me in its wokeness. So I won't even mention that one. But one of the movies was For Greater Glory. I hadn't watched it in a while, and I thought,
good stuff.
We're going to be talking about this on Monday. So I watched it, and it is good. There's only like one scene that I just kind of like, oh, they could have cut that, and it would have been fine. It just felt a little too...
The comedy scene.
Stagey, set. What comedy scene?
The one where he's trying to listen to the priest's confession.
He's trying to listen to the priest's confession.
Nah.
I don't remember that scene.
It was cheesy to me. But anyway.
I don't remember that scene. No, anyway. Great film, by the way. Great film. But nonetheless, here's the question. Are we returning to the Caius Law time period, 1920s, 1930s in Mexico, where the government persecuted the church and it caused even a war to break out, and the Vatican had to try to help negotiate the peace. Well, there's an article out by CNA about prohibiting nativity scenes in Mexico, and this would be an attack on religious freedom there. And joining us now to discuss this is David Ramos from ACI Prensa. Good morning to you, David Ramos.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me.
Praise be to God, David. We're grateful for your time today. By chance, have you seen the movie For Greater Glory?
Yeah, of course. In the Spanish version, Cristiada, that's the name that we also know the Cristero War here in Mexico and Latin America.
Good film, right? Good film.
Right.
Yeah. Saint Jose Sanchez del Rio, pray for us. What is going on in Mexico? It breaks my heart to see Mexico fall back in this way, especially since Our Lady of Guadalupe appeared to us there. What is the story of Mexico, and how likely are we to see a religious liberty persecution again?
Yeah, well, Mexico has a long history of laicism here. So this is another try of imposing over the church, over the Catholic Church especially, to silence the Catholic Church. Yeah, we could go back to the Cristero War, but even more, the actual constitution of Mexico, the 1917 constitution, is what sparkled the Cristero War, the Calles law in the first place, and then the Cristero War. And it's over a century ago of that constitution. And we can go back even to the second half of the 19th century, and we have the Reforma laws. So it's been a long time of persecution, of some kind of violence, legal and even war violence against the Catholic Church here in Mexico. And so I think that the real miracle here is from Our Lady of Guadalupe is that the faith is still alive here in Mexico, even that the government and some other pieces of the society are fighting against our faith.
It seems insane to me to think that Mexico, of all countries, could potentially ban images of the nativity scene. Do you think Mexican people would be tolerable of this? Do you think that they would go along with it if the Supreme Court in their country says they're not allowed to have these images on display? Would they just obey that?
Hard to say. First of all, Mexico, even with the laws, before 1992, here in Mexico, the Catholic Church officially didn't exist. So for more than half a century, the Catholic people could express their faith, but formally, officially, the Catholic Church didn't exist since the Calles law. The Catholic Church didn't exist till 1992, so long. So I think people could survive this law and pretend it doesn't. Well, this sentence of the Supreme Court, and pretend it doesn't exist, because the faith in public spaces is so important for the Catholic people here in Mexico that you just can't erase that. You can't pretend you can't place nativity scenes in the streets, in public spaces. You can't pretend that remove the Virgin of Guadalupe of the public spaces, because you here in Mexico, you walk a couple of blocks and then you find a statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe or of St. Jude. So it's hard to say how the people in general is going to react, but this initiative, this sentence, what it looks for is that you don't have any chance to express your faith, your Catholic faith, especially in public spaces, in the streets. It goes beyond nativity scenes, because this is going to affect legally the status of of Our Lady of Guadalupe in the streets, in the markets, peregrinations. This is going to affect every expression of faith in public spaces in Mexico.
Mr. Ramos, from what I've read, it's my understanding that this law that's being decided upon in the Supreme Court would only affect Yucatan. Is that correct?
Yeah. In the first place, this is a lawsuit that affects just three municipalities, three ayuntamientos in the Yucatan state. But this would be just there if it was a local court. But the Supreme Court has this power to bring to them this kind of lawsuits. And if they fail, they just have effect right now for these three municipalities. But it's the Supreme Court. So every other judge in the country is going to say, hey, the Supreme, in any case that looks like this, is going to say, hey, the Supreme Court said this in that case. So I have to fail accordingly to that sentence of the Supreme Court.
Right.
So in the beginning, it's going to affect three places, three cities. But this is just the beginning of it.
Yeah, definitely. Here in the United States, we call that legal precedent. So, the Supreme Court would decide something, and then they reference it in different cases as well. But I'm wondering, do you know who brought this case up to the court in the first place? Was it an organization of atheists? Was it just a regular group of people? Who brought this case up to them?
It's an NGO, but it's not exactly some kind of atheist NGO. It's just some kind of human rights NGO.
Interesting.
At least that's what looks like, right? But this trying of license is kind of suspicious. But formally, it's an human rights NGO.
We're down to just a few seconds here before we end up going to a network break. We're talking with David Ramos, who is with ACI Prensa. And we're talking about the story out of Mexico and the grander implications of what this means for the future of Mexico. Is Mexico basically become a secular state, just like the United States and other parts of the West? And that is especially troubling given the fact that Our Lady of Guadalupe appeared there in 1531 and converted millions, having defeated the worship of Satan himself there in the Aztec Empire. So, golly gee whiz, are we backsliding here? Are we looking at another round of anti-clerical laws? I don't know. We're going to continue this conversation with David Ramos right after the break. Don't go anywhere. Catholic Drive Time will be right back.
I've been listening to Guadalupe Radio for a couple years now, and I think it was a bumper sticker I saw on somebody's car one time, and it's a radio station that I don't have to be concerned about or worried about. When the kids and I are driving, I don't have to worry about inappropriate items. It's just the opposite. It's educational. I've learned so many different topics and on different subjects that I couldn't believe being a Catholic and being baptized as a child. There's so many things I didn't know, and now in these past couple of years that I've been listening in, I've learned so much.
Hello, this is Steve Gleason with your one-minute tool for Catholic evangelism. Here's the question for your non-Catholic friend. If Jesus brought two of the greatest Old Testament saints to meet with three of the greatest New Testament saints at the Mount of Transfiguration, can you say with any assurance that they were not alive, aware, and able to communicate? So here's your three best friendship tools for Catholic evangelism. Number one, the Bible. Luke 9 says, quote, two men, Moses and Elijah, appeared in glorious splendor talking with Jesus. Did you catch that? They were talking with Jesus. That means they have cognitive capability. Secondly, heavenly friends. Those in heaven long for your prayer requests. Their intercession far exceeds your best friend's prayers here on earth. Sorry to say that. And thirdly, a pesky comeback. Well, Oral Roberts University has the prayer tower. TBN has a prayer department. Your home church probably has a prayer hotline. Well, guess what? Heaven has on-demand, pure, unselfish prayer warriors known as the Great Cloud of Witnesses. They're waiting on you.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired. I'm your host, Joe McLean. So good to be on with you. Coming up at The top of the next hour, for those of you that can join us, Tito Edwards from BigPulpit.com is going to be our guest. We're going to be talking about His Eminence Cardinal Bätzing, a secret phone call that he recorded, or his family member recorded, of him speaking to the Pope, was played in court in Vatican. And we're going to be talking about that story, so do join us if you can. David Ramos is our guest right now. He is with ACI Prensa. We're talking about the story out of Mexico. Prohibiting nativity scenes is a potential there in the Yucatan Peninsula. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Ramos. We're very grateful for your time today. I keep going back to this notion that Our Lady appeared in Mexico, not only for Mexico, but for all of the Americas, praise be to God, converting millions after having defeated the Aztec Empire. I mean, the Spanish landed in Yucatan first, the Mayan stronghold there, but they were sacrificing humans. They were worshiping the devils, and their first contact was in this peninsula. So I find that very symbolic. And right now, I'm actually rereading one of my favorite books from Warren Carroll, God rest his soul, on the conquest of Mexico and Our Lady of Guadalupe. And I'm rereading the story of Hernan Cortez's conquest of trying to defeat the devil himself, and how adamant he was. First and foremost, his highest priority was to convert these people into the Catholic faith and to defeat this worship of Satan. And yet we see this very same country, it seems to me, from the outside looking in, that there is a spiritual war for the soul of the Mexican people. How do you see it, Mr. Ramos?
Yeah, absolutely right. And in the latter years, it's been really tougher for religious liberty here. Just last year, 2 priests, 2 cardinals were they were I wouldn't say convicted, but they were sanctioned. They were kind of fined because the state understood, an electoral court understood that they were for saying, well, before you vote, pray. Before you vote, you have to think about who candidates are against abortion and candidates are pro-abortion. And to say stuff like that, they were practically fined like that. So, and to cardinals, not just to priests, to cardinals, the state has this power here in Mexico, and they have this notion of separation between religion, because Catholic Church and state. So it's really hard to understand. Even in Latin America, just like Mexico, is pretty Catholic. But here in Mexico, you can be Catholic, and especially if you're a priest, you can be in danger of what you're saying to the people. You have to be really careful of not sounding too political when you speak to the people, because that could be fined. That could put you in some legal troubles here in Mexico. And even if you're not a priest, if you're an authority, a governor, you have to be really careful of not looking that you're favoring some religion, especially Catholic religion. Because if you are going to celebrate your election going to Mass, that could be understood like you are in a violation of the separation of the church and state, the constitutional principle of church and state, of separation of church and state. So it's kind of tricky to live our faith publicly here in Mexico. It's legal, if you say, but it's not that easy in the public sphere.
Wow. It boggles my mind, David. It really does. It makes me just depressed, almost sad to hear this because of Our Lady. I mean, would she want her bishops? Would she want her sons, the priests, to be so careful? I mean, one of the things I loved about reading Bernal Diaz's journal recounting Hernan Cortez's campaign in Mexico in 1519 was the very first encounter when they climbed the chief temple there in Cactus Rock in Mexico City for the first time and encountered these Aztec priests who had been sacrificing humans all morning, and they went into the center temple to see the demons, the idols there, and their desire at that very instant to do something bold, to risk something for God in the face of this. And they did. They did. Overwhelming odds. They were outnumbered by tens of thousands, and it did not stop Hernan Cortez's desire to defeat Satan in this place. And yet today, as you just said, the bishops and the priests play it safe. They're very careful. It would seem to me that there is a tremendous amount at stake right now. Why would go ahead.
You could lose your official existence if you violate this constitutional principle. So yeah, you have to, and that's as I told you, this is not something new for the Mexican people, for the Mexican Catholic Church, because you have to understand that it's over a century of not always exactly a persecution, but limitations. As I told you, before 1992, the Catholic Church officially didn't exist in Mexico. There's a story I've heard many times from different and really good sources that when St. John Paul II came to Mexico for the first time in 1979, he obviously came here with clerical clothes, right? He's the Pope. But he came first, just kind of a tourist, because Mexico couldn't officially recognize him as a head of the state. And he was formally fined for wearing clerical clothes. The story goes a little different, who tells you too, but some people say the Archbishop paid the fine, some people say the President of Mexico paid the fine, but what is real is that he was fined for wearing clerical clothes, for wearing like the Pope here in Mexico in 1979, not 1926 for the Cristero War, 1979. So it's really, Mexico is suffering from this lycism, from this criteria of separation of church and state, that tough separation that is as I told you, it's a long history of this struggling between our faith in the public spaces.
It seems to me also that, as you mentioned in the last segment, it's not just Mexico, but it's Latin America, which was predominantly a Catholic. Of course, Brazil being, I think, the largest Catholic population. I think we said that last week. We were going through these countries. But at the same time, it seems to me that these Catholics in these countries are becoming more secular in nature and less religious in nature. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I think that the secularism is affecting every single country in the world. But what I find interesting in the Mexico case is that, well, I'm from Peru, and I know some other countries in Latin America, and we are pretty religious. But yeah, we're being kind of defeated by secularism. So in Peru, you could say no more than 60% declares himself Catholic, right? But here in Mexico, you still find over 70, almost 80% of people saying they're Catholic. So I really find miraculous, because you have this over a century of no religion in schools, in public schools. You have this persecution, these restrictions to the religious freedom, and yet there's still over 70% of people that says, hey, I'm still Catholic. That's kind of interesting for a Latin America perspective, because you can find any other countries in Latin America that they are Catholic in majority yet, but they don't have these numbers of people saying they're Catholics. So that is interesting. I really say that that's kind of a miracle for Our Lady of Guadalupe, because with no Virgin of Guadalupe here in Mexico, I would really think that number would be 20% or less.
Do you think it's possible that the situation could deteriorate to the point where we might have to see the average Catholic in Mexico stand up in a more aggressive way, similar to what the Cristeros had to do in the 1920s and 1930s. I wonder how many Catholics in Mexico even know the Cristero history anymore, since they don't teach it in schools.
Yeah, the first question, I hope no. I hope it doesn't get there, because it would be really hard to see that kind of war, that kind of sacrifice of people, like in the Cristero War, that persecution, because even more than people dying in war, it was kind of more of a persecution of people, hundreds of thousands of people killed by the government in that time. The second, sorry, I was thinking just about the
just the history, the fact that I believe most Catholics in Mexico do not even really know the history of the Cristeros, because it's lost to them. It's their great-great-grandfathers now, and they've lost that, and they don't teach it in school.
Not just that. That's the last part is the tricky one, because who started to talk about the Cristero War was a French historian who came to live in Mexico.
Wow.
And he was studying the history of Mexico, and he said, wait, there's this chapter of the history of Mexico that no one is talking about. So he had this book, Cristiada, and that's when the story began to come again to life. And the people were saying, okay, my grandfather was there, my uncle was there, because this is almost the 70s or 80s, I guess. And before that, most of the people in Mexico didn't remember what was the Cristero War. That's why movies like For Greater Glory are so important for the Catholics, because they give us some memory of what happened there and some kind of interest of, okay, these people, what happened? Myself, as I told you, I live in Mexico the last 4 years of my life, but before that, I understood that there was this Cristero War, but you don't understand how much is it as until you dive deep in the story.
All right, we are out of time with Mr. David Ramos, head of the ACI Prensa office in Mexico. Grateful for your insight today. God bless you. God love you, David. Thank you for your time.
God bless you, everyone. Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for hour number 1. If you can join us in hour number 2, Tito Edwards will be on to talk about Cardinal Bätzing's story coming out of the Vatican. It's going to be our only second hour that's going to be normal all week long due to the share-a-thon across the GRN. Support your Catholic radio station.
Catholic radio was there for me when I needed it. Even though I didn't think I needed it, it was there for me. I want everybody to know that I'm giving, not so that I can sit there and say that I gave to GRN for any other reason but this. I want that radio station to be there for anyone else who needs it also. They might not think they need it, but it's going to be there for them, whether it's in the future, whether it's right now. I want that radio station to always be there for them, just like it was there for me.
The Guadalupe Radio Network. Radio for your soul.
This is a Messy Family Minute with Mike and Alicia Hernan. Sometimes it can seem that our family life is humdrum, monotonous, and insignificant. But Christ began his public ministry at the wedding at Cana. When we read this account in the gospel, we're reminded that our marriage, our ordinary family life, is important to God.
Our Lord and Our Lady love our families, and they are present with us. They desire to change what is ordinary into the extraordinary. The Lord can take our simple and everyday tasks and make them holy.
Like the servants at the wedding at Cana, we need to notice when we run out of wine, when we run out of joy, when we run out of love. It is then that we turn to Our Lady and ask for her help. She can bring Christ into our lives, our ordinary water, and transform it into wine.
And when we invite Christ into our lives to transform us, he creates the best wine of all. For more advice, ideas, and encouragement, visit us at messyfamilyproject.org.
Donnie, who was the first pope to whom Jesus said, "You are the rock upon which I will build my church"?
St. Peter.
And who is the current pope?
Pope Francis.
As parents, we're the primary educators of our Catholic faith to our children. And if you don't know your Catholic faith as well as you should, that's okay. Just tune in daily to the Guadalupe Radio Network by logging online to grnonline.com. The Guadalupe Radio Network. Listen, learn, love, and pass it on.
Are you on the CDT Insider email list? Hi, Joe McClain here. And every week I send you cool stuff straight to your inbox, goodies that you're not going to want to miss. Go to grnonline.com/CDT and get signed up today. Be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired. I'm your host, Joe McClain. So good to be on with you. Coming up, praise be to God, Tito Edwards from BigPulpit.com is going to be on with us in just a little bit. Going to talk about that Cardinal Bätzing news coming out of the Vatican. It made all the headlines. Secret recorded phone calls. What was happening there? We're going to get that information. Plus, at 15 past the hour, we're going to play our game show, Fear and Trembling. But today is the day where we're going to give out prizes. It's a special, how do I say this? It's not usual. This week is unusual. And no, I'm not talking just about Adrian either. Of course he is unusual. He's especially unusual today. But pray for Adrian's health. How are you feeling over there, Adrian?
Awful. I feel like someone's driving a screwdriver into my head right now.
Sounds normal.
Yeah, this is my normal state. It's just a larger screwdriver than usual, though.
I thought we used to refer to this as college.
No, college was easy, dude.
Compared
college
to this,
was easy. I do not handle sickness well.
Well,
so
hopefully,
please pray for me.
Hopefully you're going to feel better soon. But nonetheless, we are going to have our game show because it's Share-a-thon week here across the Guadalupe Radio Network, which means you get an opportunity to do something amazing, and you get to join the team and be a part of sharing the good, the true, and the beautiful all across the GRN through your generous contributions. We are 100% listener funded, brought to you by you. You make it possible for me to get out of bed at 3 a.m. I'd love to say these guys get out of bed at 3 a.m., but it's not true. They don't. That's just the way it is.
3:45.
I, however, get out of bed early just so that I can be here, so that we can bring you the latest information and unique perspective and interesting conversation. And you make that possible. So I can't say thank you enough for your generosity. And do consider making a contribution to your local GRN radio station starting tomorrow, 7 a.m., which means our second hour is not going to be normal for the rest of the week. We're going to go into Share-a-thon mode, and we will be on, I think it's at 9 a.m., Central, 10 Eastern, all across the GRN for our second hour during Share-a-thon. Today is the only normal second hour. That means game show, whoever jumps on the phone line is going to be our contestant. So it's a guarantee that you're probably going to get prizes if you just simply call in when I give you the phone number. So be on standby for that. Otherwise, we do have an after show lined up for you, and praise be to God, we'll talk about your Thanksgiving, whatever you want to talk about. I did release some content. I was able to get caught up a little bit on editing some of the video footage and whatnot that I had from my parish mission back in October in New Hampshire. So I released some of that. I'll share that with you. Plus, I'll share just how bad the cheating was in the food situation for me and what that did to my body. It almost wrecked me. But nonetheless, a lot coming your way in this hour. Praise be to God. I was glad to catch up with David Ramos because I've been rereading Warren Carroll's book on, I think I'm going to make it an annual tradition. I think I've been doing it the last couple of years, is reading this book just before the feast day of Our Lady of Guadalupe on December the 12th. And I want to kind of do something special. So I'm considering filming a multi-million-dollar documentary on the life of Hernan Cortez. Can I get you to contribute to that? Or
yeah, we can talk about that after Share-a-thon.
You're gonna cut me a big check so I can make the documentary film of a lifetime.
We'll make sure to budget for that.
I think instead of just recreating all the scenes that are necessary, I'm just gonna buy Apocalypto from Mel Gibson and just reuse those.
It's an old movie. I mean, how much could it be worth, right?
Right, exactly. Totally amazing, though, Apocalypto. Real gut-wrenching film to get through, but nonetheless, great Mel Gibson.
I saw that nearly a year ago when I first started working for the GRN.
That was the first time you'd ever seen it?
Yes, and I saw it at like 3 a.m. because I was sick with COVID and my whole sleeping schedule was wrecked. So I was up, and that's how I got used to waking up at 2 a.m. when I was working from California.
And
praise be to God.
The crazy thing is, Apocalypto doesn't even actually scratch the surface of how bad things were. In Bernal Diaz's journal, before they even got to Cactus Rock, they would encounter villages that were doing human sacrifices, and they counted the human skulls. They had buildings made of human skulls.
Wow.
And they counted well north of 150,000 human skulls that were used in the construction of these buildings.
Unbelievable.
So there in the dedication of the main temple, over 80,000 humans were sacrificed on a 4-day stretch, nonstop, 24/7. Yeah, kind of a rough deal. So, yikes! It would be horrible to see Mexico slide back into the Plutarco Calles types of laws there. So let's pray for them. Let's pray for the faithful in Mexico. Joining us now via Zoom chat is our good friend Tito Edwards from BigPulpit.com. Good morning to you, Tito.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Rudy. Good morning, Adrian. I hope you're feeling better. How is everyone doing?
We are alive, and that counts.
Barely.
Now, how was your Thanksgiving, Tito?
Delicious. I had an overabundance of turkey, and I stayed awake. So there's that.
Hey, by the way, do you follow the World Cup? Are you a World Cup guy?
Not so much. I'm in a World Cup pool, and for some odd and strange reason, my soccer picks are doing pretty well.
Who are your soccer picks?
Alvarez.
Let's see, England and Argentina. And Argentina really saved me by finally winning a game.
Messi got threatened by a Mexican boxer by the name of Canelo because he appeared to kick a Mexican jersey on the locker room floor.
I saw that. I thought it was something more egregious, but that looks like it was inadvertent and not intended to be what the boxer says it was.
Say that.
I think it's just.
Tell that to Canelo. I don't think he's buying. I mean, I don't think he cares. I think
tell that to the pound for pound greatest boxer of our time.
In his presence, I'm sure I'd feel his pain one way or another.
Exactly.
Anyway, let's switch over to some stories you've got linked up at BigPulpit.com today. Big stories coming out of the Vatican over the weekend. Cardinal Bätzing, in his ongoing court battle in the Vatican, apparently the prosecution, not the defense team, but the prosecution played a recording of a phone call between Cardinal Bätzing and His Holiness Pope Francis. And apparently Bätzing's relative recorded this conversation. What is the deal here with this very secretive, mysterious phone call?
Bätzing is on trial for some London real estate deals that he got caught up in, and somehow in this, it's a very complicated case. But he brought in testimony from Pope Francis, secretly recording, unbeknownst to Pope Francis, approving a loan to bail out a nun kidnapped by Islamists in Mali. And his brother, I believe, I know it was a relative that was recording the phone call on a speakerphone. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I thought I knew what was going on, but just reading in the weeds, this is bad.
Well, that's the interesting question here. Number one, did His Holiness not know he was being recorded? Number two, why would Bätzing record phone calls between him and the Pope? Seems a bit like a setup in some ways. Number three, why would the prosecution be the one playing this interview and not the defense team if Bätzing is the one who recorded it?
All valid points. Number one, I believe Pope Francis was unaware that he was being recorded. Number two, I can't remember what your number two was.
What does it say about Bätzing that he would record conversations between him and the Pope? I mean, I think that's very interesting, right? Like, this guy is CYA. He's covering his bases here. He is recording conversations. It feels like a setup in some ways.
It is just icky. I can't. It's very. it's disgusting to even believe a friend would record me, but to have a prince of the church, a man who is a servant, meaning Cardinal Bätzing, a man who's a priest in Imago Dei, record a secret recording of the Pope in a trial that he's in trouble with, and it just feels dirt. That's the word. It is dirty all the way around. And when I mean all the way around for Cardinal Bätzing.
Yeah.
That it does not, and he was complaining he wanted to clear his name so he could become Pope. Nobody who becomes a priest aspires to be the Pope. They aspire to serve.
Yeah.
So that gives his mindset is that of a careerist, of a clericist, not that of a person who wants to serve the laity. So
I found that troubling.
Yeah, it's wrong on a couple of levels. So it is just, he does not look good at all. I don't know. I don't know what could transpire later in the trial to vindicate what he does, but it does not ever look good for anyone secretly recording someone else against their knowledge.
Now, what's interesting is, of course, secular press picked this story up, and it was characterized as a secret phone call, this sort of mysterious, very secretive, shadowy type of phone call between Cardinal Bätzing and His Holiness. But according to the transcript, because if I'm not mistaken, nobody outside the court has actually heard the recording. Again, played by the prosecution, not by the defense team. You would think this would have been played by the defense team to support their case, but it wasn't. It was the prosecution who played this. So I have to believe if the prosecution is playing this recording, then they did so because it doesn't actually make the Pope look bad. And when you look at the transcript of the call, the Pope doesn't say anything, I think, that is really scandalous or troubling in any way. In fact, he's very slick in the sense he's like, listen, Bätzing, you put in writing anything you want the Pope to verify. He almost it's almost like he understood, or caught him a little bit. How do you see that?
Yeah, the Pope comes away clean on this one, and that it just, first of all, it's to give ransom money to free a nun. So what could be wrong? As an American, yes, we don't pay ransoms for Islamists, but as a humane and charitable act, you want to save this nun from the terrorists. So him approving that, I don't see how it could. Pope Francis looks good in this series on this tape recording. So there's some background to this that makes it even worse. But for Cardinal Bätzing, so yeah.
You also have a Pillar article linked up at bigpulpit.com. Bätzing could have been Pope, lawsuit dismissed. He's been suing some of these outlets because he doesn't like the press he's been getting, and one of his lawsuits got tossed out, and he's now forced to pay their legal fees. That doesn't look good either.
Yes, that's the second of two lawsuits that has been tossed out. One of them was he was trying to intimidate a witness, and was Perloska is his name, and that got thrown out. And the one prior to that, he had a spy. He was paying a spy in the Vatican bank, and that got thrown out also. So this could be another 15, 30 minutes of discussion, because there's some more things in here that just makes it filthy and dirty, and nothing's ever. I mean, when it comes to money, if you're not on the straight and narrow, one deviation, and you really do not look good, and that is being charitable to Cardinal Bätzing.
Well, we're almost out of time, but let me just say this though: I thought His Holiness was elected by the cardinals with the intended purpose of reforming the Curia, yet Bätzing is still a cardinal. Bätzing still has the red hat. Bätzing still gets invited to cardinal gatherings and gets an input. What in the world? Why would we do this? This doesn't seem to make much sense to me at all.
No, it doesn't. After news came out of Cardinal Bätzing and the international pressure, Pope Francis removed all the privileges to the cardinalate for Bätzing. And then on Holy Thursday of Easter week, he reinstated many of his privileges, and on Holy Thursday had a private meeting with Bätzing. So it just...
Some are speculating that Bätzing has a file, kind of like Hoover had a file on everybody. Yes. Makes you wonder how he's able to keep his status in spite of all of this insane stuff. But we're just about out of time, and all of this is linked up at bigpulpit.com, a huge Monday edition as usual. But you can find lots of articles over there that'll give you some more insight into all of this. God bless you. God love you, Tito Edwards.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Rudy. Get better, Adrian.
Yeah, praise be to God. All right, time to go to a break. Go to bigpulpit.com. Check out his articles. Really good stuff. Highly recommend it. We'll catch up with Tito next week. The rest of this week is Share-a-thon. So again, make sure to support your local GRN radio station with your financial contribution this year. Makes a difference for us. But we're going to play a game and give out prizes. All that coming up after the break. First caller gets to be practically the winner at 877-757-9424. Call now, 877-757-9424. Be right back.
Why do Catholics call Mary the Queen of Heaven? Doesn't God rebuke the Israelites in the Old Testament for worshiping a false goddess called the Queen of Heaven? Should we not refer to Mary with that title, therefore, since it's a title of a false god?
In Jeremiah 7, verse 18, God is indeed upset with the Israelites for worshiping a false goddess called the Queen of Heaven. However, just because God rebuked them for worshiping the false Queen of Heaven doesn't mean that we cannot pay honor to the true Queen of Heaven, the Blessed Mother. That type of thinking would lead you to believe that just because people worship a false god that they call God, we therefore should not call the true God by that same name, God, because that's the same name the idolaters use for their God. That is faulty logic, and it makes no sense whatsoever. Again, the fact that there is a false Queen of Heaven does not lead to the conclusion that we worship a false goddess when we call Mary the Queen of Heaven. Just as the fact that there is a false God does not lead to the conclusion that we worship a false God when we call our Father in heaven God. And there is a true Queen of Heaven. We see this quite clearly in Revelation 12, verse 1. And a great portent appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. Let's see. There's a woman. She's in heaven, and she has a crown on her head. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's the cleaning lady. No, it's the true Queen of Heaven, Mary, the mother of the male child who is to rule the nations. We do not worship Mary, we honor her just as Jesus honors her. So there is absolutely nothing wrong from a scriptural point of view in calling Mary the Queen of Heaven and in honoring her just as Jesus honors her. After all, if Jesus is the King, then Mary is truly the Queen Mother of Heaven.
A beacon of truth in a troubled world. This is the Guadalupe Radio Network, radio for your soul.
Welcome to another round of Fear and Trembling, the Catholic trivia game show that helps you work out your salvation by the seat of your pants. It's a 50-50 chance and prizes are involved. Avoid the weeping and gnashing of teeth. Call now to take your shot, 877-757-9424. And now, your host, Joe McClain.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time and Fear and Trembling, a Catholic trivia game show that has secrets and agendas that you can't tell anybody. At least not today. Tomorrow, it's fine. Tell everybody tomorrow. But today, you got to keep it between us. And there are a few things we'd like to do on the download, the QT. And number one, we like to teach the faith. So we look for teachable moments in the questions where you just might learn something you didn't know before. But I'm going to be honest with you. You may learn one thing today, but I bet everything else you probably know. Number two, we like to have a laugh. We like to have a good time, and our callers laugh with us, and we enjoy that most. And then, of course, we give out prizes, which means we incentivize everybody to participate because you could learn, you could laugh, and you could win. It's that easy. The kicker is, the secret sauce, and all of this is, I do not ask the caller the questions, so they don't need to know. They may not know a single correct answer, but could still win the game. And that's because I will ask Adrian, I will ask Rudy, one of which will give us a correct answer. The other will give us an incorrect answer. The caller will then have 15 seconds on the clock to make a decision. Whomst do they trust more? And then every right answer goes into the coffee cup of Divine Providence to win this week's prize. Rudy, it's a short game.
Praise be to God.
Today and today only.
Today.
So what are we going to give?
We're giving away
the statue
devil
behind you.
Oh, that one.
Can we give that one away? You think Jesus will mind?
Well, that's not the devil.
No,
but you know what is? The devil and Belladad.
Oh, we're going to give the book away.
One Woman's Struggle Against Communism and Her Redemption. We interviewed Dr. Paul Kengor about this book twice. Two last week and then the week before.
Easy for you
Is that right? I was trying to think, did we do it in the same week? I don't think so. It was 2 separate weeks. Yeah. Wonderful conversation. Go onto our YouTube channel and find those interviews with Dr. Paul Kengor. They are fantastic, and I would recommend you pick up this book.
Yeah.
But it was written by Mary A. Nichols and Dr. Paul Kengor, and we're giving this one away today to whoever calls in.
All right, well, praise be to God. Let's see who the contestant is. Good morning to you, Kim and Tony.
Good morning.
We haven't heard from you guys in a while. Praise be to God. How are you?
We're doing really good. Thank you.
Awesome. How was Thanksgiving?
Fulfilling.
Now, favorite food. Like what, Tony? What did you like most about Thanksgiving meal?
I like the big smoked turkey.
Ooh, smoked turkey.
That's even better.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go home and ask my wife why my turkey was not smoked. I mean, that's pretty fancy stuff, smoked turkey.
It was.
Now, so what about the side dishes there, Tony? What kind of a guy are you? Do you like mashed potatoes, or like are you into like the what is that? The pink stuff, the cranberry stuff, like the cranberry sauce or cranberry gelatin or whatever that's pink stuff. What do you call that? Like, what do you like for a side dish there, Tony?
You talking about Spam?
I like all of it.
All of it. Good answer. Great answer.
Good
All right.
man.
Praise be to God. Well, we're glad you're back. It's good to hear your voice again. Are you ready to play?
Yes.
Let's do this. Smoked turkey.
All right.
So jealous. Wish I had smoked turkey. All right, Rudy, did you have smoked turkey?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I had honey roasted turkey.
Ooh, honey roasted. That sounds good, too. All right, let's play the game. We're going to start with Rudy Carlos, as is our custom here. Rudy, can you tell me who was the only pope to write his memoirs?
Yes, this pope, he was quite a bit of a journalist. He was very fond of sitting down at the end of the night, writing out, "Dear Diary, today." And anyway, I was Pius II.
Was it?
Yeah.
Pius numeral 2.
Numeral 2.
Dos,
yep.
The second.
Yep.
Dear Diary, today I poped. That's it. That's all I did today. Was poped. Yeah.
My cardinal right-hand man, he betrayed me. He recorded me with a scribe.
I had him excommunicated. Anyway, let's go with Adrian and see what Adrian has to say today. Adrian, are you still alive over there?
No.
All right. Well, while you're not alive, could you help me with this question?
Yes.
Who was the only pope to write his memoir?
Yes, as someone who is answering from beyond the grave, because I'm currently dead. I've talked to the popes.
You have?
Yes, I have.
All of them?
All of them.
Amazing.
And it was actually Pope John the 24th.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
The 20, what was it?
24th.
The 24th. Got it. Okay, John the 24th. I was going to go with Cletus, but okay.
Nah.
Cletus sounds like a guy who would journal.
I doubt it. I doubt he even had paper.
Chisel, stone, papyri. Anyway, here we go, Kim and Tony. Is it what Adrian says? He's on the board for Pope John the 24th, whereas Rudy says Pius II. 15 seconds on the clock. Who's right? Who's wrong? Kim and Tony in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. What say you?
No curveball. I'm going with Adrian.
No, go the other way. I'm sorry. Tony, my friend. I feel bad, Tony. I feel like I Well, I didn't let you down. Adrian did, technically.
There is no Pope John 24th.
Yeah, there is no John the 24th.
Not yet.
Though there is 2 John the 23rd.
I was going to say there were 2 23rds, one of which was not a pope.
Yeah, one was an
anti-pope. To be, and the other one was. But nonetheless, John the 24th is not correct. Pius II, believe it or not, is.
Yeah, it's 1400s.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, Pope said journal. Who knew? But Pius II is the correct answer. We're going to get you in on this prize, I'm sure.
The good news is they only need 1 to win.
Exactly. It's so easy. All right, we're going to go with Adrian first on this one. And I know Adrian is an expert in marriage and weddings.
It's true.
Which is weird for a single guy, but nonetheless, could you tell me who must be present at a Catholic wedding besides the engaged couple? Which is important that they're there.
It is important that the engaged couple is there, which is actually a legitimate concern because they used to try to marry people
not around
when they were not around.
What are they, Mormons? What are they, Will?
No, it was because they were marrying people from other countries, so they had people standing in for them. But no.
This is like Avatar.
Yes, it's like Avatar, except not at all like it.
Wild.
The only person you need besides the engaged couple is one altar server.
That's it?
That's it.
Just one altar server.
It's true.
Does he have to be the MC, or could he be like a torchbearer?
Well, he's just he's just called the server.
The crucifer? Could he just be
the server?
Okay. All right. So no specificity on the level of serving. Okay, so just the altar server. Rudy, maybe you could help here. Could you tell me who must be present at a Catholic wedding in addition to the engaged couple?
This takes me back to an almost illicit wedding. I'll tell you about that in the after show. But what's required? Yeah, I really should write it down.
Big, fat, illicit wedding.
I should journal it.
You should.
But basically, all you need is a priest and 2 witnesses.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So in addition to the couple, you're saying a priest and 2 witnesses.
That's right.
Fascinating. Reminds me of Matthew 18. All right, Kim and Tony, who was right here? Is it Rudy who says a priest and 2 witnesses? Or is it Adrian who says, altar server, that's all you need. 15 seconds on the clock. Who's right? Who's wrong? Kim and Tony, what say you?
Team Rudy.
You're just going to go.
Let's go!
Yeah, an altar server. Come on. I kind of wish we had altar servers at our wedding. We didn't.
Yeah, that
would have been cool.
I think we had a couple.
Did you? Interesting. All right.
Pretty penny there.
Pretty penny to pay those guys off. All right, let's go with the question. You could win. You don't even need to answer this next question because you're already a winner. But let's do it anyway. We're going to go back to Rudy. Rudy, could you tell me what is lustral water?
Lustral water comes untouched by man.
Does it?
From the springs of Lourdes.
Really? And Lourdes is what you're saying.
Some might say Fiji water, but actually no, it's Lourdes. It's water from Lourdes.
All right, Adrian, maybe you could help. What is lustral water?
Yes, lustral water is just holy water.
From Fiji?
No.
No?
No. From a priest.
Straight up holy water.
The best holy water is just Fiji water that's blessed.
No.
Okay,
it's just holy water.
Adrian, you're saying just holy water, any priest can make it.
Doesn't need to be Fiji water.
Got it.
In fact, it's probably better if it's not.
Probably better if it's not. All right, Kim and Tony, it's a fun question. You don't need to get this one right to win the game because you already won. But Adrian says lustral water is holy water, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. Whereas Rudy is convinced it must come from either Lourdes or Fiji. 15 seconds on the clock. Who is right? Who is wrong? Kim and Tony, what say you?
The biggest deal of the year, Adrian.
Tony, you don't win more just because you admit Adrian's correct.
Actually, he wins twice now. It's the double win.
Lustral water is holy water. Congratulations. Doesn't actually matter where it comes from. Although Fiji is a great place. I like Fiji. Fiji's great. Praise be to God. Kim and Tony, it's good to hear your voices. Happy Thanksgiving to both of you. Thanks for playing our game again.
Thank you. you.
We're going to put you guys on hold. That's going to do it for the radio side of today's show. Remember, Share-a-thon starts tomorrow. Please support the Guadalupe Radio Network. It means the world to us. We'll see you in the after show.
Thank you for joining us on Your Catholic Drive Time, where it is our pleasure to keep you informed and inspired.
Join us Monday through Friday at the same time, right here on your favorite Catholic radio station.
Don't forget to connect with us. Just go to facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time.
Again, that's facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time.
Be sure to share more than just us today. Share Jesus with everyone you meet.
Bye now, and God love you.
Praise be to God. Welcome back to the after show. Let us know how your Thanksgiving went. Any surprises? Any curveballs for you? Let us know in the commentary.
Please send help.
Please send help. Adrian is...
Put me out of my misery.
He's dying over here.
Breathing hurts. Coughing hurts.
Don't breathe on me, please.
I already licked your keyboard.
Yikes. See what I have to deal with, people? See what I have to deal with?
I want to make sure we all get sick.
Oh, man.
I'm going to just jump. And then that's it.
And then
it's over.
And then it's over. Interesting. Well,
it hurts right behind my eyes for some reason.
Dude, you sound like you had the COVID again.
It's possible. I got a major fog brain.
And you're breathing all over someone's microphone today.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll disinfect it. Spray it down with some...
Maybe Xi Jinping is right. Maybe we ought to lock you in your house. I don't know.
That's okay with me.
Bar the door.
Lock me in.
Lock you in. Sci-Fi says, my birthday was Friday, so the whole weekend was a good time. My favorite part, playing Minecraft with the kids, other than the masses I attended. Well, Sci-Fi Mike, happy birthday to you. I mean, 27 does not happen every day. Praise be to God. Enjoy it while it lasts.
Genevieve says, Adrian, I hope you feel better. Thank you, Genevieve. Please pray for me and help. Pray that I suffer well, because I'm a weak sufferer.
I'm sick. How's it go? Yeah. Yikes. Yo, so some good news. I did get my bike fixed.
I saw that.
Praise be to God. Back
what
on
I didn't
the bike.
see is that
great.
You didn't do a trick.
The trick is I get to ride a bike.
You should have done
Man of my vintage.
A wheelie or jumped over an obstacle or you could have went really fast and jumped over the ravine.
You know what gets me? Okay. How many people wear helmets on bikes these days? No, I'm not.
You have to wear a helmet.
I'm not giving them a hard time because, look, it's safe. Praise be to God. I don't want people to get hurt. But when I was growing up, nobody wore helmets. I mean, the only people who could afford helmets were rich kids. At the skate park, they would have to wear helmets, so they would wear them, and I could never afford, knee pads and helmets and all that, so I never had them. But I used to skateboard and bike, and I would be in the hospital every other week. I mean, I'd break bones and.
If you were poor, wouldn't it be cheaper to get a helmet than go to the hospital?
Yeah, that's true.
I had government health care. I never had to pay for it.
I had one helmet, and it lasted me 15 years.
Really?
Yeah.
I was always jealous, a little jealous of all the fancy gear, but I could have to borrow it from a friend to be able to skate the bowl or whatever. They're like, here you go. I'm like, thanks, dude. You're all right. Yeah, well, it's my charitable work for today. Let you poor people have a chance to skate too.
My mom told me I should let you borrow it.
So I don't wear helmets, and I guess that make me a bad guy. I don't know.
I haven't fallen off of my bike in a long time, but I've had enough near-death experiences where I decided to wear a helmet.
I remember going back to skateboarding, and I used to skateboard a lot. I love skateboarding.
Could you ollie?
13. Oh, yeah. Dude, we would ollie over everything. Are you kidding me? We were constantly finding rubbish to go ollie over. I mean, it was just the thing. But I was trying to do the Rich Mullins. I don't know if you knew the Powell and Peralta, the Bones Brigade. Tony Hawk was a part of that. Guerrero was a part of that. Gonzalez. Mullins was also a part of that. Mullins was like the skinny board. He did all the super tricky stuff. the mega flips and spins, and like it was really kind of. I never liked that style, but he used to do all these handstand tricks. So I was trying to learn all these handstand tricks. Only one time I dropped the board on my head, gashed my head open pretty good.
Yikes!
You know what would have prevented that?
A helmet. Which is why I brought it up.
I grew up in the 90s skate era with the really big puffy shoes, Osiris D3s, Etnies, I think is what they were called or something. But then there was the huge ones, the Osiris D3. The tongues were like 2 inches thick.
What?
It was like so cool.
I missed that, thankfully.
Man, those are awesome.
I have my
What are
own.
they going for on eBay? Let's see.
I don't know. I would destroy shoes on the skateboard. Just destroy them. They didn't last hardly ever. I would have these holes that we'd tape over, because my mom's like, I'm not buying you new shoes yet. I just bought those. So we duct tape them just to get them to last longer. Man, those were the good days.
Wow.
If I were in better shape, I think I would try skateboarding again.
$100. You could buy one from 2001.
Well, send me a link. I have no idea what you're talking about.
2001. 22 years ago.
So yeah, I broke the fasting rules. I gave myself permission to break the rules, and I had corn. What do we call it? Cauliflower mashed taters. So, like a mashed potato made of cauliflower, not potatoes, unfortunately. Oh, look at these things. What in the world? Here, I'm putting it on my screen
They're huge.
so everybody else can see it too. Look at these things.
I want to see them on somebody's foot, just so you could see how
much
big
do those
they are.
weigh? Like, you can't ollie with these things on. Gravity is going to rip you back down to Earth. Like, it's crazy how big these things are.
Yeah, they were huge.
But I bet they lasted a while.
If you say so.
No?
One time my mom got me a skateboard, and I left it on my front lawn for just like 5 minutes. I went in to go get something, and they stole my skateboard. Brand new skateboard.
Oh, that's the worst.
In Burbank, of all places.
Dude, my Mark Gonzalez was an awesome board. I love my Mark Gonzalez. And then, of course, I had the Guerrero as well. And the Caballero. I had the Caballero as well. And then, of course, the post-Bonite Tony Hawk. Best board ever.
Post-Bonite.
Yeah, Bonite was like a carbon-like material that they would put in between the layers. Oh, let me see if I can find a picture of it.
This is real.
Bonite skateboard. Let's see here. See what we got for images. So like these were like the good old days of Tony Hawk, like back when he was still young and didn't get divorced yet.
Is that Mark Hawk's brother?
No, I wish he probably wishes that way.
Tony Hawk.
Like, Tony, send me a check, pal. Tony Hawk's become very famous and wealthy, but these are like they don't show the actual Bonite. That's the only problem.
I had a Tony Hawk board.
You can almost see it in this image here. You can. It's hard to tell, but you see this black line there, that dark layer. That was like a layer of what they called Bonite, and it was intended to make the board stronger. But everybody hated it. I think it made the board heavier, and nobody liked it, so they got rid of it. And I got the first Tony Hawk post-Bonite, and it was just the bomb diggity, as we used to say.
Okay.
The bomb diggity. I loved my post-Tony Hawks. Good stuff. Good times, man. I don't know how we get from bike riding to skateboard so quickly, but nonetheless, there we are. What's going on with everybody else? Let us know what you were up to over the weekend. Praise be to God if you had a good time. By the way, if you have not read Our Lady of Guadalupe and the Conquest of Darkness, shame on you. Shame on you.
You can't even get the book anymore, though.
I'll sell mine. $3,000.
$3,000.
Oh man.
Is it even hardbound?
No, it's kind of
this is a reprint.
It's kind of like when Warren Carroll also his magnus opus was his multi-volume series on Christendom, the history of Christendom, which I love, and I also have that. It's a massive work. But he had put out these smaller books. One was Our Lady of Guadalupe, and the other one was 1917. Fantastic book, 1917. So good. I'm so tempted to contact Christendom, the college, and ask permission, try to obtain permission to do an audio book of Our Lady of Guadalupe. My only downside, my only hesitancy is, one, the project is going to take a lot. But number two, I will have a difficult time properly pronouncing the Nahuatl words that are involved in this book.
You mean Nahuatl?
See? I haven't even started, and I've already messed it up. How you say it?
Nahuatl.
Nahuatl.
Yeah.
See? You're going to have to be standing next to me the whole time I'm trying to read this stuff, because I'm just going to obliterate these names. I should just, do like a dramatic reading and then, interject the proper pronunciation sort of awkwardly on top of that, and there he was, faced with the Nahuatl people in the jungles of Mexico.
That's like Waze. For some reason, there's like two voices now. It's like becoming schizo. I'm like, wait a minute, that wasn't the voice that talked to me 5 minutes ago.
I would do it, but God, I would not. I'm just going to get it wrong. I'm just going to do it badly. But I just really want to read this book so much, because you're just never. I tried to look up other biographies of Hernan Cortez, and they're all terrible. He was horrible. He was a bad guy. He loved gold. He just wanted to be power hungry and lustful of gold and blah, blah, blah. He colonized these poor Aztec people. I mean, it's just on and on and on. You're like, good grief. And when you read Bernal Diaz's journal, which is the primary source that all historians would have to go by, although there are Aztec sources as well, Warren Carroll actually references Aztec journals from Montezuma himself in this book to really give a better picture of what was going on with Montezuma at the time.
Dear diary, today
exactly
I sacrificed thousands and thousands. Some would say tens of thousands of
some would say
poor bees.
Some would say. Now, Montezuma personally offered sacrifice as a priest as well. So, in fact, he was trying to do it on the down low because he knew that Quetzalcoatl, forget
Quetzalcoatl.
How do you say it?
Quetzalcoatl.
See, you're going to have to do those parts for me.
I don't want to say that name.
Well,
freaking snake devil.
No, that's not the snake devil one.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No. You're okay. No, you got the two main deities, which were both the demons, but the Quetzalcoatl guy, he was an actual priest who got exiled from Cactus Rock. And the prophecy sprung up about him that he would return. Oh. And he was opposed to human sacrifice. So while he got sent back, he got sent down to the Yucatan, and he lived the rest of his life amongst the Mayans.
But you know what I read? He said he was personally opposed to that in one particular region, but then in other regions it was fine.
Well, so when you read the book, Quetzalcoatl gets kicked out. He goes to the Yucatan. He lives among the Mayans. He lived, for all intents and purposes, peacefully and quietly for the rest of his life among the Mayans. Did he not protest their human sacrifice? I don't know. We don't know. I don't know. But either way, he was the guy known for opposing human sacrifice. And the prophecies came up that he would return in a year of one reed on a very particular day, dressed in a certain way to take possession of Cactus Rock, the Aztec Empire again, and to end human sacrifice. Well, guess what happens?
And that man?
On the year one reed, on this very specific day, Good Friday, by the way, dressed in all black because of Good Friday, Hernan Cortez disembarks and lands in Mexico.
Based.
And they're like,
it's him.
It's him. And guess what he wants? He wants an end to human sacrifices. In fact, he has a mass said Thanksgiving 1519. Where you at, pilgrims? I'm just curious. Anyway, he says he has a Thanksgiving mass said. Then he has a feast because the Montezuma sends his emissaries to Hernan Cortez because for whatever reason, the spy network was fantastic in the Aztec Empire. The word traveled back to Montezuma very quickly. And these guys show up and they're with him for the mass and for the meal after, the Thanksgiving meal after. Again, pilgrims, where you at? Then, before they eat their food, these emissaries take out human blood from a sacrifice they had just committed and sprinkle it all over their food. Hernan's like, "Tain't gonna happen on my watch, bro." I don't think so. He challenges them to personal duel. He says, "Give them a sword. I want to hear if these rumors about these Aztec warriors are true. Let's do this thing." And he says, at dawn, and they were you and I are going to fight to the death.
They're like, "What's going on? I mean, this is completely normal. Why are you acting like this, man? I'm just putting some sacrifice on my food. It's like just salt and pepper, man. It's just seasoning. Wait, relax."
Hernan is the bomb diggity, man. He is the real deal. He's like, "I'm fighting you to the death because God would demand this," right? So these guys run for their lives. They beg forgiveness, they run to their boats, and they row as fast as they possibly can away so that they would not be slaughtered at the hands of Hernan Cortez. I mean, this guy, I cannot believe there's not been, Mel Gibson has not made a Hernan Cortez movie.
He's working on it.
It is, when you read, so for Christmas, I asked my wife to provide to me the hardcover version of Bernal Diaz's complete journal, his entire work of the recounting of the conquest of Mexico in hardback. I'm like, I want the goods, man, because it's just so good. You got to read this if you've never read it. All of your misconceptions of what Hernan Cortez did or didn't do. Now, did he have a love for gold? No. Did he want gold? Yes. But it is clear when you read Bernal Diaz's journal that was not his priority. His priority was to convert these people and to defeat Satan himself. In fact, they discovered when they were living in the palace of Montezuma's daddy, they discovered the secret, a secret room filled with gold, and Hernan had it resealed, and he demanded that not one piece be taken from the room. And in the subsequent days, when he captures and kidnaps Montezuma, in order to, being prevented from being slaughtered by the masses, Montezuma offers him the treasury of gold. Now, some Spaniards obviously were not as crusader-like, not as holy, not as zealous and pious, and not as motivated by God and for Our Lady as Hernan was. And so they filled their pockets full of gold. Well, guess what happens? In the night of sorrows, when they're running for their lives and trying to escape this city built on a lake, when the Aztecs pulled the bridges up, they all drowned because their pockets were filled with gold. Not Hernan, not Bernal, not those whose love was first for God. I mean, and Our Lady in particular, his love for Our Lady was incredible.
They didn't practice underwater calisthenics with the rocks. They would have made it out just fine.
Bad enough they had, armor on. But they drowned. Many of them drowned. I mean, the guy was just so incredible. The governor of Cuba was jealous of his successes and tried to prevent him from going to Mexico to begin with, but Hernan ignored him and sailed anyway. And so the governor sends 1,000 men to take Hernan Cortez. And when they land in Mexico, what does Hernan do? Montezuma's like, "Oh, yes, finally.
Go smack down.
These guys are coming for you, buddy. It's all over for you. You might as well escape now while you can. You better hurry." Hernan leaves Montezuma in the care of one of his captains, and then he personally rides to meet this new army and convinces them to serve him instead of, after he defeats them in a quick battle, he convinces these soldiers to serve him.
Unbelievably
and
based.
They do. Massively outnumbered, by the way, the whole time. Thousands to one. Doesn't stop their spirit.
I ran into a post on Instagram this past week, and it was a picture, a video of some lady climbing one of these pyramids.
Oh, I saw this video.
And everybody's like, "Oh!" and they're shouting her down, throwing water at her and all this stuff. And in the comments, I was like, man, all these people decrying this woman for so-called, disrespect to the ancestors and to this pyramid would be the first ones rolling off the pyramid.
Yeah, exactly.
There's like 50 comment thread after that, and I was commenting, by the way, Cortez is a hero and all this stuff. Oh man,
it's over.
It's over.
You got trashed, I'm sure. Tranched. Yeah.
Some people liked it. Other people are like, "Are you a white supremacist?" I'm like, what does that have anything to do with this?
I didn't realize you're not allowed to climb those. I thought I remember seeing
used to
pictures
be able
of people.
to.
Okay, so when did they stop?
They stopped it in the 70s, or I think in the maybe early 80s or something, because they started crumbling.
Oh.
Thanks be to God. They should crumble. Yeah. I think we should go and climb them so that they fall faster.
Hernan Cortez wanted to have mass set on top of them. He tried.
Yeah, maybe.
He tried. He erected a cross and an image of Our Lady, and then they only offered him a room inside the temple to say mass in, and they did say mass.
The storage room?
Yeah.
Where they kept the blades?
Well, no, it was something like that. But it was still covered in blood and crazy. So he had the priests themselves. This was a cool part of the story too. So he forced, through Montezuma, the Aztec priests to clean the room out. They had to clean it top to bottom. They used lime, I think, is what he said. And
Jordan Peterson, report Jordan Peterson. Aztecs, clean your room.
And then he set up an altar, and Father Almedo said mass in there, and they put an image of Our Lady in there, and they required that candles be constantly burning in front of the image of Our Lady. He forced the Aztec priest to maintain the candles. Like, that's how baller Hernan Cortez is, that he forces the Aztec pagan priests to have to maintain the image of Our Lady. Like, and it doesn't get much better. Like, how is this not a Hollywood film? I don't understand. Okay. Yeah. And then when you go read about the battles, and then almost like every single Spanish soldier wounded and nearly dying, and they still do not give up. They still go back to retake Cactus Rock, and there's just this determination from Hernan to say, I am coming to be the boot upon which Our Lady crushes your head. Like, it's so good. So I'm quitting right now, and I'm gonna go make a film. I need $100 million to do it proper, like. $100
million.
You gonna write me a check?
$100 million.
$100 million. You won the $2 billion in California. I know you did. You're hiding it this whole time.
It's me, the man from Altadena.
You got $100 million in your pocket right now, I'm sure. And you're just like, I was gonna buy lunch, but okay, here you go.
Yeah, man. Sorry, I was gonna buy steak for breakfast. Steak and eggs.
I'll be having that later. Jesus Robles says, Adrian, your awesomeness would just be elevated if you dedicated your sufferings to this share-a-thon. Redemptive suffering from Adrian would be second to none.
Will do.
Put us on side by side if you're gonna be too sick to video switch over there. Craig says, I have 2 long boards and a pool board.
Based.
What is a pool board? I know what a long board is. Just say the word, Joe, and you can borrow it. Craig, I would probably break your board. And then what good would that do? Then I'd break my head, probably. I would love, I don't know, if I lose enough weight, I was going to go pro mountain biker. I may have to go pro skateboarder instead if I can lose enough weight.
You're going to go skydiving.
Hey, if your bike is fixed, you ought to go down to, what's that place called here? Kalinin State Park or Kalinin Natural Conservancy. They have these little wood ramps you could take your mountain bike on. That would be cool.
Skydiving.
Mm-hmm. You got shocks on that thing?
I do. Yeah.
You're all set, man.
I'm all set. Now, we're all going to go skydiving, first of all. If I hit my goal weight, we were going to go as a team.
No.
Skydiving or bungee cord jumping off of a hot air balloon.
No.
Will our life insurance still kick in if we do that? Is there a condition that you can't skydive?
I wonder if is it written in there? Like, does not cover skydiving? Is that a thing?
That would be unfortunate.
I don't know. Jenny, thanks for the spam today over on Rumble.
Jenny.
This is my first spam on Rumble. I'm feeling like this is encouraging. We're growing on Rumble to the point where we've had spam on YouTube for since the beginning.
We've had spam in Hawaii. We've had spam on rice, spam musubi.
Spam in Rumble. I mean, that's amazing to me. It really feels like we're really coming along now. So thank you, Jenny. And apparently Rumble does not allow us to moderate comments whatsoever.
Speaking of musubi, oh man, in just 3 weeks, I'm going to be in California eating some of the best food. Oh, I missed it. I miss it so much.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. I miss all the restaurants out there. Man, it's nothing like those restaurants out here. Porto's. You went to Porto's. Man,
I did.
You only had
on your advice, I went and stood in line for this restaurant that I'm like, how good could this be?
So good.
Standing in line is
Scale of
not
1 to
a
10.
thing.
2.
Okay.
It was quite good, right?
It depends. Was the food good? Yes, the food was very tasty. Very good.
But you don't think it's worth standing in line?
But typical Californian style, you get like the tiniest portion possible.
For real?
Yeah.
It must have changed.
Oh, man, it was a small little thing.
Dang.
And you're paying premium for that small little thing.
Yeah.
So it's expensive for the portion size, but the food was very good.
Every time we go to California.
Oh, wow. T-Storm says...
There's never any good food.
T-Storm says there used to be a restaurant on top of the hills. I don't know the hills because I was a very young child, but it was called the Castaway. That was actually in Burbank. And when I was a mischievous young lad, me and my buddies would go and drink up there because the lights were nice to look at night. So.
Yeah. Craig says, I'm glad Adrian spoke just now. I was about to call in a welfare check.
You should. You still do it.
We should, call in. We should call Jesus and make him come for a welfare check. That'd be great.
Speaking of California, the illicit wedding. So back when everything was completely locked down, like in China.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to have our wedding. And we had planned it for a year. Everything was going perfectly. And then the lockdowns happened. And the priest was like, sorry, we got to play ball. We can't give any sacraments out. And I said, okay.
None?
No, none. I mean, you could like sneak in and get a confession, but they weren't allowed to. Even though he had built like a completely safe confessional box outside, they were like, nah, you can't do it. So one day we're brainstorming. I'm talking to the priest who's prepping us, and he says, look, I'm tired of all of this lockdown nonsense. I'm going to tell you what. You and Ashley show up at the church at midnight under the cover of darkness and bring your witnesses, and we're just going to finish this wedding and get started. It's going to be fine. We're going to do our thing. And I said, okay, wow, that's incredible. Let's do it. Let's do it. I mean, that sounds really cool. That would be a really cool story to tell our kids. Well, we get excited. The next day he calls in the morning and he says, Rudy, I can't imitate his Argentinian accent, but I'm going to try. He says, Rudy, Ashley is not nearby you, is she?
Oh,
and I said,
not a good way to start.
And Ashley was sitting next to me, and I was like, oh, it's fine, Father. It's okay. You can speak plainly. And he says, okay, I spoke to the canon lawyer, and he told me this may be illicit if we do this, so I am so very sorry to say, but we cannot proceed as planned. I am so sorry. I apologize. I did not know this. And then, Ashley just breaks down in tears.
Yeah. Crushing the soul.
Oh, man.
One person at a time.
And then a week later, he calls us and he says, listen, I just got the word from the archdiocese. He says, I just got the word from the archdiocese. Everything's going to be open. You have 2 weeks to prepare. Get everything ready. We're going to do the wedding. It's going to be fine. You can only have 99 people inside. No, it was more like 40 people. He said, you can only have 40 people inside. So, you have to plan out with the choir and all the peoples. We can only have certain peoples in there. And so we had to like drastically cull everybody down to like the bare bones. We had like 15 of our guys, 10 of the choir.
How much do you really love us? What kind of a gift were you planning to offer? Yeah. I'll put you on the waiting list.
Man.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe somebody won't show. And
having to call my best mates and tell them, sorry, we can't do it. I'm just going to have the man of honor, not man of honor, the best man.
Yikes.
That's it. I'm sorry. But, if I could do it again, I would probably pick a different best man. Because he was a secularist, you know. And,
did you not know that at the time?
No, I knew that. He just had seniority, and anyway, I would have picked somebody. I would have picked my best bud. I was going to say Adrian. I would have picked my best bud, Jordan Pacheco.
Jordan.
Jordan Pacheco.
It seems strange Jordan wasn't your best man already.
Yeah.
If I were Jordan, I'd be questioning life at this point.
Yeah.
Like, how much does Rudy actually care?
Yeah. Poor Jordy, man.
Poor Jordy. My big fat illicit wedding.
My big fat illicit wedding.
That'd be for a good comedy.
But it wasn't big.
You ever watched that movie?
Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Yeah.
Of course, it was a classic.
When the grandpa or the dad's like, "Oh, you want to leave me?"
That was such a classic, man.
Yeah, it was. I can't tell. I can't remember if it was bad or not. Probably it was
and
bad.
the guy who the main actor who played the groom was in that television series, Northern Exposure, and he played the DJ guy. And I love radio, and I'm like, gotta love the DJ guy. Remember that? Did you ever watch Northern
I don't even
Exposure?
remember. I don't know who you're talking about.
Northern Exposure. All right, I'm gonna have to put the desktop on again. We're gonna have to Northern Exposure show. Let's see what we get on the YouTubes for that. Yeah, right here. This guy. Can we skip forward?
Quentin Tarantino.
Remember, this was about the doctor, the New York doctor, in order to get through medical school on the cheap. He goes to a program where they pay for his medical school, provided he does his practice in Alaska for a certain number of years. And then...
look at that washing machine.
That was the guy. But he was also the radio DJ guy in town, in a tiny little Alaska town, which I would totally live in if I could.
Why do you say remember as if I've seen it?
You were there, were you not?
Uh-huh.
You might not even have been alive when this was on the
not.
air. Good times. My big, fat, illicit wedding by Rudy
1993.
Carlos.
I definitely was not born yet.
We should produce that into a comedy. Short film comedy. That'd be great. There's room for that in the Catholic world. But we have no money. That's the problem. Anyway, God love you. God bless you. Have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
But not for after show.
But not for the after show for the rest of the week. Mark Mills, we're going to talk about electric cars and why they are no bueno. That's coming up tomorrow. God love you.
Thank you for joining us on Your Catholic Drive Time, where it is our pleasure to keep you informed and inspired.
Jesus is a friend of mine. Jesus is my friend. Jesus is a friend of mine. I have a friend in Jesus. Jesus is a friend of mine. Jesus is my friend. Jesus is a friend of mine. It won't get done. If God don't do it, it won't get done.
Man, what are we talking about?
Go, Brandon. I agree. Hey.